You start the record. Okay, so fishing industry, another important part of Pakistan's economy. We export a great amount of fish every year to countries like Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Europe, and uh, I mean, it's also a booming industry for the local consumption. Let's look at these terms first of all. The aquaculture. Aquaculture is basically the development of water resources for fish. Marine fishing is a term related to fishing in the seas or the oceans. For example, the Arabian Sea in our case. Inland fishing is related to fishing in the inland water resources such as lakes, rivers within the country itself. And outland fishing or marine fishing is basically in fishing on a larger scale in the seas, oceans. Okay. Importance of fishing industry to Pakistan, number one, because it is one of the oldest occupations. People living on the coastal areas of Sindh and Balochistan, it is their constant source of employment. This is how they earn. This is their permanent source of employment. So this is why fishing industry is very, very important for those people as one of the oldest occupations. Important source of diet because a lot of fish is consumed in all across Pakistan. It's also exported. So because of the nutritional value, people really prefer fish, and this is why this industry is constantly developing. You can look at point number 3 that explains the nutritional contents of proteins, of vitamins. You don't exactly need to know these details, but just know that because it's consumed wide across the country and across the world, this is why the demand is constantly increasing. Okay, according to the session on 2009 2010, the total number of people 395,000 were engaged with the sector, but out of total of 135,000 people were engaged with marine fishing and remaining 225,000 inland fishing. So according to the data census of 2010, 395,000 people in Pakistan were engaged with the fishing industry of Pakistan, directly or indirectly through fishing or in the fishing related industries. We're going to talk about what these fishing related industries are later. Fishing industry has a share of GDP of 0.9%. Which is not very significant, but still is important. So 0.9%, and this data is, I think it's also pretty old. So the share must have increased over years. So 0.9% of contribution to GDP. 6% of its foreign exchange earnings are earned through the export of fish. And we export fish to Japan, Germany, USA, Middle East, and other countries. Other than that, oil is extracted. Fish is also used to make fertilizers, poultry feed, okay, fish waste, sorry. Okay, types of fishing. Number 1, the marine fishing. And number 2, the inland fishing. Marine fishing, we just talked about it, how it's related to the fishing in seas and oceans. So Pakistan has these coasts of Arabian Sea along the Sindh province and Balochistan. The Sindh coast is alongside Sindh and Makran coast alongside Balochistan. So we have these few major fishing centers in Karachi and then few major fishing centers in Gawadar, Pasni or Mara in Balochistan. So the centers in Karachi are alongside the Sindh coast, and the centers in Jiwani, Gawadar, Pasni or Mara are alongside the Makran coast. These are the points where the fishing is carried out and the fish are then stored. They are they're developed into value-added products and they're then exported through these seaports to other countries. You should also know a few names of the species of fish that are catch: prawns, sharks, sardines, herrings, drums, skates, rays, and catfish. These are all the species that are usually catch around the Sindh coastal areas. For the Makran coast, again, they're pretty similar. The peak season for catching fish is November to May, and for shrimps is October to June. Sindh coast has 30% of total coastal area for fishing, which is still pretty large area. From Sindh coast, 68% of fish is caught. So total I mean, if you look at the total number of fish caught in Pakistan, so 68% of the total number of fish caught in Pakistan is basically caught from the um, Sindh coast. Karachi is the main fishing center. Then Sindh coast is rich in fish food because the river Indus brings a lot of fish food and joins the Arabian Sea. Mangrove forests are also located there because mangroves are the breeding grounds of the fish. So there's a greater probability of catching fish alongside this coast. There are pretty I mean, there are creeks, rivers, deltas, so obviously there is more capacity to, I mean, there are more platforms to catch the fish. Makran coast, 70% of total area for fishing. 32% of the remaining fish is basically caught from the Makran coast. So fishing centers, Javani, Gavadir, Persni or Mara, mangroves, they do not exist. This is one of the reasons to why the figure is pretty low, 32% of the total fish of Pakistan. Here's the map. If you look at the areas here, just a second. So see, this is the Gawad, this is the Makran coast. Because this entire area, the red one here is Balochistan. And these are all the main fishing centers, Jivani, Gavadir, Basni or Mara, Somiani. And this is the Sindh coast here, till here. Karachi is the main. Although the coastal area of Balochistan is greater as compared to the coastal area of Sindh, but still 32% of the total fish is caught from Balochistan and 68% of total fish of Pakistan is caught from the Sindh. Because of one of the reasons is the presence of mangrove forests. The other reason is the development of this the Karachi seaport. Okay. Now there are a few questions which we were going to attempt these later. Types of marine fishing. So there are two further categories of marine fishing: the subsistence fishing and the commercial fishing. Subsistence fishing is basically when the fish is just caught for the family consumption. For the, you could say it's also small scale fishing practice, where the fish is usually, the fishing is practiced just for the consumption of the immediate family and no commercial activity. So obviously the techniques are also traditional, conventional techniques for catching the fish. For example, small wooden boats, handmade nets, rod and line methods. Fish are usually stored in the baskets of ice instead of refrigeration facilities. Commercial marine fishing is large scale fishing where the fish is caught for the commercial purposes to for selling it, across the country and obviously to export as well. The methods are also modern and advanced. For example, the mechanized boats, trawlers, gill netters, chilled storages on boats. Government also funds these practices by providing loans and incentives for the workers. Let's look at this graph here, because most of the questions, you'll come across a lot of graphs and figures in your exam paper as well. So this graph shows the weight of marine fish caught 1996 to 2006. See how the x-axis here is the number of years and the y-axis is the metric tons weight of the fish caught. So let's look at the question here. The weight of fish caught in 2006 was less than in 1996. So just two reasons for this decrease. So if you look at the weight of the fish in 2006, which was somewhere around 380,000 metric tons. And the weight of the fish caught in 1996 was around 395 metric tons, 395,000. So there's a significant difference between these two values. What is the reason for that? Why is the weight lesser? So you can just reflect upon the content that you've studied and think of reasons for that. Overfishing could be a reason, water pollution could be a reason that affects the growth of and development of fish, loss of breeding due to cutting of mangroves, fishing in closed seasons, fishing by boats from other countries, illegal fishing. Yeah. So all of these are the reasons for the differences in the weight of marine cod. So the fishing industry was booming in 2002. As you can see, the value was maximum. It was around 480,000 metric tons, and it was lowest in 2006. So you can also, I mean, the questions might even be asked regarding this highest value. Why was the weight of marine fish caught the highest in 2002? So all of the reasons would exactly be opposite of this one here, that maybe people were abiding by these fishing laws, water pollution was less, there were more mangroves for the breeding ground, there were strict policies against the closed seasons, there was no illegal fishing, and the government was supervising the fishing areas closely. So there could be several reasons for that as well. This is how you are supposed to think about these questions and then answer them according to the content that you've studied in class. All right, the second major type of fishing is the inland fishing. Inland fishing is the fish that's caught in the rivers, lakes, dams, yeah, within the country. So this inland fishing, it further has three types. Oh, yeah, I think you can ignore these further three types. It's not related to the exam. You should just know what is inland fishing. That's it. Okay, fish pond now. If you look at this picture here, this picture is about the fish farm or a fish pond. Look at the features, try to analyze this picture and see what is important and how should a pond be. The factors, it must be a flat area. As you can see, the topography of this area, it looks like an Indus plain, it looks like a flat area, a synth coast maybe, alluvial soil. It's very important. I mean, the soil is alluvial because of the presence of water, availability of water from canals. You need to have ample amount of water to keep the fish, and definitely you would need natural canals to bring that water from nearby rivers. Availability of food, transport, man-made structures. You need to have these. If you look at these, the pavements of these ponds, they seem to be modified and refined, because obviously you need to have these strong pavements to keep the water in. And most of the ponds you'll see, I mean, this one is pretty barren, but most of the ponds you'll see trees around them. So trees, they'll avoid, I mean, they protect these ponds from direct rays of sunlight and will avoid evaporation consequently. So that is also an important factor. Some species of inland fishes here. Sources of inland fishing. These are the names of rivers and dams: Mangla, Todila Dam, River Indus, its eastern and western tributaries. So see, these are all the fish farms. If you look at this map here, all of the fish farms are alongside River Indus and the tributaries. Yeah. And see, you could see most of the farms are around the Punjab plains. See, this is another example of a fish farm. Okay, so here's a question. Why is fish farming of growing importance in Pakistan? Credit will be given if you name a species of freshwater fish reared on fish farms, or explain why fishing and fish farming are important industries in Pakistan. So why is fish farming a growing industry in the country? You also need to name a few fish breed of the freshwater fish breed. And freshwater fish breed means the inland fishing, the fish that are caught in the inland water sources. So yeah, if you see these points here: growing population, or I mean, you can skip these dietary point of views, dietary benefits. You can just accumulate these 2 points in just one point here, diet as dietary benefits. Alternatives in alternative income to farmers, employment opportunities, water available from irrigation, nutritious food, bones for fertilizer, export earns foreign exchange. You also have to explain these points. This question is, I mean, it's probably a 4 mark question, so you would have to write any 4 points with a proper explanation, proper justification. Could you please note this question down, as you'll be attempting this after this class? You can maybe take a screenshot of this or just write it down.
Okay, so just question 8.
Yeah, question 8.
Okay, I've taken a picture of it.
Yes, you can. Have you taken
Yeah,
it?
I've done it.
Okay,
Yeah, I've
okay.
taken it.
All right. Fish marketing now. Okay. So it is important to, I mean, in order to keep the industry running, it's important to market the products as well. The domestic international market for fish in Pakistan is constantly growing because of these marketing. So because we have a very major local industry of fish in the country as well, and then most of the fish is also exported. It's important to continuously upgrade the facilities, upgrade the marketing techniques, and I mean, in order to effectively sell the products. So Karachi is the main fishing center. The street hawkers, they basically buy the fish and provide door-to-door service all across the country. Some major, some important departmental stores, they also purchase fish from these fishing centers. Some private companies, for example, they make these products as value added products and then sell them across the country. And then the imported local and private companies import the fish to other countries as well. At the international level, Pakistan is a market for fish and fish products. About 30% of the total fish catch is exported to 30 countries of the world. Japan is the main market for fish and shrimps. USA, UK, France, and other markets. About 80% total fish catch of the Makran coast is tried for export to the Middle East. So you see, 80% of all the fish caught at the Makran coast is basically exported to the Middle East. Uses of fish: number one, food supply; number two, fish waste is used for fertilizers and poultry feed; and then oil extraction as a source of vitamin A and D. Problems of fishing industry: number one, water pollution, overfishing, threat and cutting of mangrove forests, less water in rivers. Water pollution, these are just the points. You will still have to explain them on your own. Water pollution is causing the fish to die. Definitely, it's difficult for the fish to breed in such, you could say, the polluted water. Overfishing, young fish species are caught, and this also affects the overall population. Mangrove forests are being cut. There's less water in rivers in winters because obviously the major source of water in river Indus and its tributaries is the melting of glaciers. And in winters, that flow is pretty less because of the temperatures, and the glaciers, they do not melt in winters. Okay, now if you look at this figure here, this figure has all the advantages and disadvantages of developing the fishing industry. If we develop it, we would, I mean, definitely, number one, fish are a source of food, more employment opportunities, and you could say, I mean, also, and if you focus on the economic factors, we could import the fish to the Middle East, to Europe, to countries like USA, Japan, and that would obviously impact our GDP as well. But there are certain problems, disadvantages, not disadvantages exactly, but problems that we face for the development of this industry. Education, awareness, communication, the areas are not well connected. It's difficult to transport fish within the country. technology, there's a lack of storage facilities, there's lack of awareness regarding the value added products. Yeah, water pollution kills and damage the fish, restriction because there is a certain amount. I mean, Pakistan has banned fishing in June and July due to certain reasons. Income, there is no immediate gain or immediate profit. Sustainability, overfishing, so it's very important to maintain sustainable fishing industry. Sustainable, again, we discussed this sustainability factor in the previous chapter as well. So it's very important to maintain an industry that fulfills the demands of the present generations without making compromise on the demands of the future generations. So yeah, government efforts to develop fisheries. The government can introduce new fishing methods, can develop the value added products such as canned frozen fish. And when a product is converted into value added product, it's obviously um, it is sold on higher prices. Why? Because of the first of all, the initial costs to prepare that product, and then because of its quality as well. Most of the value added products, canned or frozen fish or processed goods, they're exported to other countries. So guidance and weather information for the fishermen through broadcasting services and the I mean, these broadcasting services would definitely help the fishermen, because currently all the farmers, all the fishermen who carry out these practices, they rely on these conventional methods, and they don't really have these the access to modern technology to plan out their fishing practices. Loans for training and education, construction of cold storage for processing, provision of infrastructure, electricity and roads, communication facilities for marketing. So this is all what the government can do to basically somehow enhance the fishing industry. Sustainable fisheries now, sustainable development, we've already talked about that. It's important to uh, run this industry on sustainable lines. Banning of illegal nets. So there's no, basically, there's no, you could say, overfishing, because illegal nets, there are certain types of nets that are allowed for fishing, and those nets, they ensure that only fish of certain size are caught. So if, let's say, people continue to use illegal nets of different sizes, there's a chance that young fish species might be caught, and that could obviously lead to overfishing. This is very important. Avoid cutting of mangrove forests, construction of cold storage and processing. How does the production of fish in Pakistan help its economy? Return to fishermen, GNP, gross national product, gross domestic product, GDP, employment opportunities, extra income for farmers, technology, upgradation, foreign exchange, reduces burden on crop and livestock. This is another question that I want you to attempt. If you can note it down, you need to explain these points. This is a 6-mark question. You need to write any 6 points with proper elaborations and proper examples and justifications. These 2 questions for today. And with that, we're also done with the topic, fishing industry. Is there any questions so far?